these details about building the temple.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, here she is. And here comes Myrna.
Sorry I'm late.
Wow.
That's
Oh,
okay.
Ruthie, better late than ever. Anything worthwhile is worth waiting for.
I was in the
And here
middle of
is the lovely
folding
Myrna.
laundry and I still haven't finished, but I knew I had to get on. So, anyways,
God bless you. Myrna, Myrna. What's happening?
hi, Myrna.
Hi, Myrna.
Myrna, you're muted.
Just said that without realizing it. How's everybody doing tonight?
Good. Good.
Hang it in.
Thanks for coming. Does someone have their TV on or something? Seems like
Oh, I'm sorry. I got to shut that off. Sorry, it's my
Thank you.
fault.
Why don't you have Rudy do it?
I
Why-
actually
that's-
do. I
why
leave
don't
it
you
on for
train him?
Rudy. Rudy watches TV.
I know, but you should train him to shut it off too.
Yeah, well, haven't learned to do that yet.
Well, Whiskers and I were watching some of Columbo the other night.
Did you say Whiskers?
Yep.
That was my first
Cat.
dog's name.
He's such a good boy, Whiskers. We were watching Columbo.
Wow. All right. Everyone's here now.
All righty,
Hey,
good.
Monique.
Monique,
And
welcome
Monique's coming
back, Dr.
from
Ed.
Great Britain.
Thank you.
Did you have a wonderful time?
I had a ball. I had a wonderful time.
Oh, I'm
Excellent.
so happy. I was thinking about you the whole time you were away.
Yeah, the baby's a lot of fun.
I bet it is. I bet. How old is the baby now?
He's 15 months.
Oh my gosh, he must be
Wow.
walking and talking and everything.
Yeah, he's walking and running and
That's great.
plays hide and seek.
That's great.
Mm.
What a wonderful age.
But Sarah saw Eliza and her husband at a gathering.
Yeah. Oh, you got to see them too?
No. But Sarah saw them a while ago, before I got there.
Oh, I see. I see. Very
Yeah.
nice. Very nice.
How
All
are you,
right. Are we
Dr.
ready to begin?
I think so. Go for it, Ruthie. This
All right.
is
I'll
the Book
start
of
with the
Kings.
Haftarah so I can listen while I finish folding my clothes. Okay. All right. Let's start with the Haftarah.
Okay.
Hiram made the pots, the shovels, and the basins for the temple. With that, Hiram finished all the work he was doing for Solomon in the house of the Eternal. The two columns, the two bowl-shaped capitals on top of columns, and the two pieces of network to cover the bowl-shaped capitals. The 400 pomegranates for the pieces of lattice work to cover the two rounded capitals on top of the columns. The 10 stands and the 10 pots that stood on them. The tank with the 12 oxen supporting it. And the pots, shovels, and basins, all these articles that Hiram made for King Solomon in the house of the Eternal were of polished bronze. The king had them cast on the plain of Jordan between Sukkot and Zaratan in clay molds. There were so many articles that Solomon left them unweighed to the weight of the bronze was never determined. King Solomon also made all the articles that were used in the house of the Eternal, the golden altar, the table that held the loaves of God's presence, also of gold. The lampstands of pure gold that stood in front of the inner sanctuary, 5 on the right and 5 on the left, with their gold flowers, lamps, and tongs, and the pure gold cups, lamp snuffers, bowls, ladles, and fire pans, and the gold hinges for the doors of the innermost room of the temple, the Holy of Holies, and for the golden doors of the main hall of the temple. May I just stop for a minute? There's something I wanted to, oh, is it the end?
Looks like it.
Oh, okay. I have something before we go on to the Torah portion. There's something I'm interested in. King Solomon made all these articles. Was he like an artist or an architect, or how did he know how to? I mean, I know that they got directions, but you just don't do it unless you have some type of skill.
I don't think he was. I don't remember hearing that he was skilled in any kind of metalwork, but he was like King David. Actually, his father was the one that started the whole process. So I believe there was a lot of people involved, a lot of crafts.
I see. So it
people,
wasn't
yeah.
just one person. Okay,
Yeah.
That's where I was confused.
It was a huge
Okay.
undertaking. Yeah.
I'll read a little bit more of the Torah portion, and then somebody else can take over.
Fantastic, Ruth. Let me get to
Because that was such a
Torah.
short Haftarah.
Yeah, it was pretty
Very
tiny.
short, you know. Right.
We're down here, right, Gary? Right there. Oops.
Yep.
Now I gotta go
Okay.
forward. Hold on
So
one
can you center it or something?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. So we're starting at 35:1.
Yes.
Okay. Moses then convoked the whole Israelite community and said to them, "These are the things that the Eternal has commanded you to do. On 6 days, work may be done, but on the seventh day you shall have a Sabbath of complete rest, holy to the Eternal. Whoever does any work on it shall be put to death. You shall kindle no fire throughout your settlements on the Sabbath day." Moses said further to the whole community of Israelites, "This is what the Eternal has commanded. Take from among you gifts to the Eternal. Everyone whose heart is so moved shall bring them gifts for the Eternal: gold, silver, and copper, blue, purple, and crimson yarns, fine linen, and goat's hair, tanned ram skins, dolphin skins." There's those dolphins again. Where they got them, I have no idea. "And acacia wood, oil for lighting, spices for the anointing oil, and for the aromatic incense, lapis lazuli, and other stones for setting, for the ephod and the breastpiece. And let all among you who skilled come and make all that the Eternal has commanded: the tabernacle, its tent and its coverings, its clasp and its planks, its bars, its posts and its sockets, the ark and its poles, the cover and the curtain for the screen, the table and its poles, and all its utensils, and the bread of display, the lampstand for lighting, its furnishings and its lamps, and the oil for lighting, the altar of incense and its poles, the anointing oil and the aromatic incense, and the entrance screen for the entrance of the tabernacle, the altar of burnt offering, its copper grating, its poles, and all its furnishings, the laver and its stand, the hangings of the enclosure, its posts and its sockets, and the screen for the gate of the court, the pegs for the tabernacle, the pegs for the enclosure and their cords, the service vestments for officiating in the sanctuary, the sacral vestments of Aaron the priest, and the vestments of his sons for priestly service. So the whole community of the Israelites left Moses' presence, and everyone who excelled in ability and everyone whose spirit was moved came, bringing to the Eternal an offering for the work of the tent of meeting, and for all its service, and for the sacral vestments. Men and women, all whose hearts moved them, and all who would make an elevation offering of gold to the Eternal, came bringing brooches, earrings, rings, and pendants, gold objects in all kinds. And everyone who possessed blue, purple, and crimson yarns, fine linen, goat's hair, tanned ram skins, and dolphin skins, brought them. Everyone who would make gifts of silver or copper brought them as gifts for the Eternal. And everyone who possessed acacia wood for any work of the service brought that. And all the skilled women spun with their own hands and brought what they had spun in blue, purple, and crimson yarns, and in fine linen. And all the women who excelled in that skill spun the goat's hair. And the chieftains brought lapis, lazuli, and other stones for setting, for the ephod and for the breastplate, and spices and oil for lighting, for the anointing oil, and for the aromatic incense. Thus the Israelites, all the men and women whose hearts moved them to bring anything for the work that the Eternal, through Moses, had commanded to be done, brought as a free will offering to the Eternal. I just want to stop for a minute. When you think about it, how many people in this day and age followed every little letter of the law and the skill and everything? And where did these people have these skills? Hello?
Really good question. I don't know.
It's always something I've wrestled with too.
These are quite a bit of skills.
But God tells them who to assign it to, though.
Yeah,
Right.
but he did tell them. But just think about it. Even let's say if somebody told me, I want you to build this tabernacle I'm not sure I could do it though. even
Yeah.
if I had the directions. It's bad enough trying to put something together in the directions I get for a little, bookcase or something.
It's a really good point, but they're together. They're not doing it alone, right? They're all doing
Okay,
it together.
that's what I have to keep on remembering.
Yeah, and I think it's a beautiful thing if you think about it. If they have this one focus point just to do this all for God and not for themselves, it's like,
I
to
know.
me, that's like
That is
brilliant.
Yeah,
It's
that's
brilliant.
pretty good because I don't see much of that today, but I do think that's pretty great.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go on.
You
And
go on.
Moses said to the Israelites, see, the Eternal has singled out by the name Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, of the
Can I
tribe
say-
of Judah.
Yeah.
What?
I just wanted to say one thing real quick. I
Okay.
see it happening today. We're doing it to our own temple right now. Go ahead.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
I see what you're saying. But we have architects and people that are working. I understand. It's not
People
the
that
lay
have the-
person doing it.
There you go. There you go. Everybody that's doing their specific.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But it seemed like that the lay people were following the directions, not just like a person who's an architect or another person who's an artist or, person who's, I don't know. It's just,
As they say, you learn by doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And the other thing
suppose.
too is that this is the temporary temple, right? So it's kind of like the tents, and they can probably be a little more not so precise, maybe. I don't know.
Well, it sounds like they were very precise. I disagree. He was saying, remember he said so many cubics of this and cubics of that. I
Yeah.
remember that. That was a lot of cubics.
Michael,
Yeah, I mean, and that's
Michael,
true. That's
remember
a really good point.
we
It's a
talked
really
about
good
the laver. Isn't that where the Christians adopted it for the churches? The bowl where you could like wash your hands.
Yeah. Oh, all this stuff. Yeah, all this stuff is used
yeah.
for all different. I mean, all different Christian groups, all different. Starting with the Catholics or the Orthodox, and this goes through all the different religions. I feel.
Right.
I mean, and I think I think I was explaining it the other week that the Umim and Thummim, those two angels that are around the ark, I just saw them like around the in a Catholic church too, around the place where they keep the Eucharist, which I'm like, well, that's it's all Moses, it's all Judaism, it's all.
I just wanted to note, I was going to wait a little bit since we've stopped. I
Yeah.
know Ruthie has talked a lot about dolphins.
Yeah, the
And
dolphin skins. Yeah.
Dolphins, yeah. Well, dolphins are very plentiful. Striped dolphins are very plentiful in the Mediterranean. And we don't think
Oh.
as the Mediterranean has dolphins, but the striped dolphin is very present in the Mediterranean. So they knew it. And if you remember, there's been a movie about that called Boy on a Dolphin, if you remember.
Oh yeah,
Oh yes, I do remember that movie.
but I didn't
yes.
realize that was that was
Yeah.
the same kind of dolphin.
Yeah, it's Myrna. We're dating ourselves. You know who starred in that movie? Sophia Loren.
Oh,
She's
wow.
she was
90.
very
She's-
lovely.
Yeah, she was 90 now. But yeah, there are dolphins in the Mediterranean.
Oh, so that's a good point. And you know what? I also thought maybe in this. I know this sounds like a silly thing. Remember when they were going across the Sea of Reeds? Could there have been dolphins there?
Well, they wouldn't have had them by now. They would.
Well, no, they could have taken them with them, and then they, carried them the skins with them to use for clothing or something later on.
It's possible.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Possible.
They
Anyways,
called him
let me finish this
Flipper.
last paragraph, and then I'll let somebody else read.
Okay.
Let me finish
Last
this last
paragraph.
one. So and Moses said to Israelites, see, the Eternal has singled out by the name Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah, endowing him with a divine spirit of skill, ability, and knowledge in every kind of craft, and inspiring him to make designs for work in gold, silver, and copper, to cut stones for setting and to carve wood, to work in every kind of designer's craft, and to give directions. He and Oholiab, son of Ahisamach, of the tribe of Dan, have been endowed with the skill to do any work of the carver, the designer, the embroiderer in blue, purple, crimson yarns, and in fine linen, and of the weaver, as workers in all crafts, as makers of designs. Oh, that actually answers some of my question. Let then Bezalel and Oholiab Oholiab, and all the skilled persons whom the Eternal has endowed with skill and ability to perform expertly all the tasks connected with the service of the sanctuary, carry out all that the Eternal has commanded. Okay, at this point, I'm going to stop.
All right, Ruthie. Who would like to pick it up at number 2? Chapter 36, number 2. Anyone? No one?
I will.
All right, Carrie.
Yeah.
Oh, Myrna. I saw Myrna
Shalom
say
always. Remember how Shalom calls me Bezalel?
Bezalel, yes, I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe
so
it.
I feel like I feel
Inspired
like
to
I have
do
read
crafty work with the
Okay.
guitar. Bezalel.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's your name on it?
Huh?
It
Okay, here we
has
go.
your name on it. It was designed for you to read it.
Bezalel. Huh? Moses then called Bezalel and Oholiab and every skilled person whom the Eternal had endowed with skill, everyone who excelled in ability to undertake the task and carry it out. They took over from Moses all the gifts that the Israelites had brought to carry out the tasks connected with the service of the sanctuary. But when these continued to bring free will offerings to him morning after morning, all the artisans who were engaged in the task of the sanctuary came from the task upon which each one was engaged and said to Moses, "The people are bringing more than is needed for the tasks entailed in the work that the Eternal has commanded to be done." Moses thereupon had this proclamation made throughout the camp: "Let no man or woman make further effort toward gifts for the sanctuary." So the people stopped bringing. Their efforts had been more than enough for all the tasks to be done. Then all the skilled among those engaged in the work made the tabernacle of 10 strips of cloth, which they made of fine twisted linen, blue, purple, and crimson yarns. Into these they worked a design of cherubim. The length of each cloth was 28 cubits, and the width of each cloth was 4 cubits, all cloths having the same measurements. They joined 5 of the cloths to one another, and they joined the other 5 cloths to one another. They made loops of blue wool on the edge of the outermost cloth of the one set, and did the same on the edge of the outermost cloth of the other set. They made 50 loops on the one cloth, and they made 50 loops on the edge of the end cloth of the other set, the loops being opposite one another. And they made 50 gold clasps, and coupled the units to one another with the clasps, so that the tabernacle became one whole. They made cloths of goat's hair for a tent cover over the tabernacle. They made the cloths 11 in number. The length of each cloth was 30 cubits, and the width of each cloth was 4 cubits, the 11 cloths having the same measurements. They joined 5 of the cloths by themselves, and the other 6 cloths by themselves. They made 50 loops on the edge of the outermost cloth of the one set, and they made 50 loops on the edge of the end cloth of the other set. They made 50 copper clasps to couple the tent together, so that it might become one whole. And they made a covering of tan ram skins for the tent, and a covering of dolphin skins above.
Do you think the dolphin skins maybe made it a little waterproof? just throwing it out there.
I think
I'm more interested in the lapis. The lapis had to come from Egypt because the only lapis source was Afghanistan in those days. So the lapis, they must have taken lapis with them from Israel because they're running around the desert, and there's sure no lapis in the desert.
And I would like to make one comment on a more or a moral lesson that we can get from here. What do we learn from Moses being told that the people are bringing more than what's needed? Tell them to stop. It's just like when somebody needs your help for something, you should be able to give somebody the help that they need or whatever, but you shouldn't go overboard. Sometimes you could do too much and it could end up
Right.
having a detrimental effect. So I just think that I think of that when, because you think like, oh, how would they be told like that? Oh, you don't need any more. Like you think in our congregational life, if we told everybody, oh, we don't need anything. Oh, don't worry about it. We got enough. but but sometimes, I mean, like somebody could do something for you, but sometimes they might do it to an extent where they get a little bit too overly, and then it could, it can be something bad. So
A
if
perfect
somebody,
example of that, actually, Gary, is let's say you're doing something where you're giving lots of food away, and then you get all the people that needed the food had it, and then you'd have plenty of food that's going to be left over and be ruined and spoiled.
Mhm.
That's
that's like one way to, that's part, but
yeah,
there are, other ways too, though. Like, you could need some help with something, and somebody could not just give you the help you need, but they might go beyond what you wanted to the point where it upsets you in a big way, maybe.
yeah,
So what
right,
should be helpful ends up being not helpful if you overdo it too much. So it's
yeah,
always good if somebody reaches out to you to give them what they need, but what they need and not too far above, not
right.
based on what your need is to give, but what they need to receive.
So in essence, though, they were already reaching their goals. So why go overboard when we'll probably need these people in the future?
Well,
So
that's the literal thing, but lesson here, obviously. But I'm saying, like, you could look at it, in terms
hmm.
of, it's something I read a long time ago. I think I read a commentary or something to that effect, but
But
I
in
just figured I'd
reality,
throw it
no,
out
in
there.
reality, that's really very important.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
doing important work, and if we don't need, we'll save you for the next important work. Right now, you can rest. I mean, it gives everybody a part that he or she can contribute to and be proud of, instead of just saying,
Right.
"Oh, we got more to do."
Right.
Or
Right. To
also,
what?
too, just chiming in here, if you don't, like, say for instance, Moses didn't give that order, like, stop. I mean, then some people might bring a gift, and then it won't be used, and then people would be like, "What? They didn't even use my gift, right?" It's kind of like it's important to. We have plenty. We have plenty. God bless us.
But you have to be very tactful,
Yes. Yeah.
and they knew how to be tactful.
That's true. All
Or
right.
so we think. We don't
Yeah,
have any record of how tactful they were. We like to believe they were.
Some were
well,
tactful, some others worshipped a golden calf.
They were all human. They were human
Just
beings
like
with their with,
2022.
they
That's
were
right.
human
Nothing
beings
new,
with their
nothing new
human
under the
failings
sun.
as well.
Exactly.
Their human goodness and their human failings. That's how I look at
Right.
it.
Does anyone else want to pick it up with the reading? That was great, Gary. I loved it.
But
I
I
could
can
keep
do it
going
if
if
you
you
tell me where.
Number 20 at the top.
They made the planks for the tabernacle of Acacia, uh, acacia wood upright. The length of each plank was 10 cubits, with width of each plank a cubit and a half. Each plank had 2 tenons parallel to each other. They did the same with all the planks of the tabernacle. Of the planks of the tabernacle, they made 20 planks for the south side, making 40 silver sockets under the 20 planks, 2 sockets under one plank for its 2 tenons, and 2 sockets under each following plank for its 2 tenons. And for the other side wall of the tabernacle, the north side, 20 planks, with their 40 silver sockets into sockets under one plank and 2 sockets under each following plank. And for the rear of the tabernacle to the west they made 6 planks, and they made 2 planks for the corners of the tabernacle at the rear. They matched at the bottom, but terminated as one of the top into one ring. They did so with both of them at the 2 corners. Thus there were 8 planks with their sockets of silver, 16 sockets, 2 under each plank. They made bars of acacia wood, 5 for the planks of the one side of the tabernacle, 5 bars for the planks of the other side wall of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the planks of the wall of the tabernacle at the rear. To the west they made the center bar to run halfway up the planks from end to end. They overlaid the planks with gold and made their rings of gold as holders for the bars, and they overlaid the bars with gold. They made the curtain of blue, purple, and crimson yarns, and fine twisted linen, working into it a design of cherubim, whatever that is.
Those
They
are
made-
angels. Those are angels.
Oh,
So the
okay.
little ones, the cherubim, very cute little ones.
Yeah, the little angels. Yeah.
They made for it 4 posts of acacia wood and overlaid them with gold with their hooks of gold, and they cast for them 4 silver sockets. They made the screen for the entrance of the tent of blue, purple, and crimson yards, and 5 linen done in embroidery, and 5 posts for it with their books. They overlaid their tops and their bands of gold, but the 5 sockets were of copper. Bezalel made of ark of acacia wood, 2.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits wide, and 1.5 cubits high. He overlaid it with pure gold inside and out, and he made a gold
I
molding
can't
for
talk
it
to you right
round
now. I'm
about.
doing my Torah study. Okay.
He cast 4 gold rings for it. For its 4 feet, 2 rings on one of its sides and 2 rings on the other. He made poles of acacia wood, overlaid them with gold, and inserted the poles into the rings on the side walls of the ark for carrying the ark.
Excellent. Dr. Ed, you're the best.
A
You want to
question,
take a break? Yeah.
do you think that they had some kind of blueprints? Because how do you you had to have had some goals, because this is too much to keep in one person's mind. They
Well-
had to have done something, marked
No.
it out, or
Now, why even talk about this? And I have a reason. I think it's very important.
Okay.
What is it?
This is a foreshadowing of the future. They knew the ark. They knew the Jewish people would get scattered. They knew the ark would probably be destroyed at some time. So they wanted to absolutely describe it to the hilt. So when the temple is rebuilt, they don't have to go back and design an ark and what it was. The Torah told them.
that's interesting. That's a fascinating take on that, Ed. I really like that. They were
Yeah.
very, very what's the word I want from that? Present. And they knew they had a goal and they had to leave it behind. But what would they have left it on? Is there parchment at all there?
What do you mean the way?
To mark it so that they can look. There's so much going on here. One person can't have it in his head, completely. They had to have a way to look at something. So what I'm asking is, you could draw it in the sand, but the wind would come along and then it would be bye-bye. So where would they have, or how would they have preserved the directions?
I think didn't Gary bring this up last week? The parchment, possibly parchment, and
Probably. They had to have.
Well,
Right.
where do you get parchment in the desert though? I'm thinking parchment comes from trees.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they could use
Animal
it.
skin, isn't it?
Oh,
No, I don't
What?
know.
Oh, it could be animal. You're
Yeah.
right. Animal skin too. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
Parchment is.
You remember the movie Fahrenheit 451? Do you remember
Yeah.
that movie?
I remember
Where
the name of it.
each person memorized a book and orally gave it to somebody else who memorized it. So maybe this is a oral history.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Usually,
some-
though, it gets lost in translation, like the telephone game.
Right.
Well,
That's
actually,
just me.
yeah, the Tesla is built on the definition of the ark, or something. But
Just
I
don't have
don't
a
know.
self-driving ark, because that's no good.
I know for sure. If somebody gave me the information, I'd be telling you the wrong information to the next person.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a lot to remember.
It's a
That's what
lot.
I'm saying. I don't think I could have remembered it all.
And I don't know how many people are really that visual so that they can see it in their mind, the eye, in their eyes and say, oh, good, this is how we're doing it.
Right.
Um,
But
Well-
maybe they did a lot of like trial and error too. Maybe it took them. They were there for 40 years.
That's
I
right.
don't know.
There's
This
a
is
lot of
pretty
things
close.
in between the lines we have to,
Yeah.
that's what they say. I was listening to some rabbi, I don't remember where, on the internet recently, and he was saying all of Torah is to read in between the lines. And he says that's your whole purpose in studying Torah, is that wherever you see something that doesn't make sense, it's for you to make sense of it. Isn't that interesting? I like that.
Yeah.
And
It
then
is.
again, they're not St. Patrick, right, Ruth? That's an inside joke, everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
You'll
Well,
Oh, is
understand
that a
that.
Purim spiel joke?
Yeah, we have a Purim spiel. You'll find out more about St. Patrick later. Yeah.
Or your version of St. Patrick, I would imagine.
Yeah, our version is pretty
Yeah.
crazy, right? Yeah.
That's awesome. So,
You know what gets me? Because look, they say 50 locks of this and 20 locks of that. I mean, somebody has to have a visual of this.
yeah,
because,
Bezalel does. He has the craft anyway. But the other idea that I came across the other day is that a rabbi pointed out that it doesn't say to make the ark permanent. It doesn't say that anywhere in Torah. So all of a sudden we have King David having the idea, we're going to build the temple. Boom.
Yeah.
And God said to David, no, you're not going to build it. Your son Solomon will build it. So I don't know. It's an interesting concept that, and then there was 3 temples built, and the last one was destroyed in 70 A.D.
Oh, that
So,
was-
anyway, I just throw that out there because I thought it was sort of interesting. Like, oh, is this going to be? And that way, people could create their own temple. What do you think of that? Is that?
We do
Or is
with
that-
Zoom. Well, I mean, you create a certain, I don't know about everybody, like myself, like I have my computer in a certain area. I have it set up a certain way, like, for services and stuff, and I associate like that area with, if I'm not at the temple, like that place is my sanctuary.
That's
Like
awesome.
I don't do it like at any room in the house. I do it in a special place.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
You know.
And I think that's the other overlying theme of this building the ark. I feel like it's also because and I've brought this up before, that it's probably building within our own psyche, that building where God meets us, not so much out there someplace, but also internally, where we can visualize all these things coming together. We can, as we're talking about it and thinking of it creatively, we're probably also doing something metaphysically that we're maybe not quite aware of, but maybe we can feel slightly different. Because at the end of Torah, doesn't Moses say, don't look over here for God, don't look over the
It's
hills.
internal.
It's internal. And that's what I feel is another part of it. I mean, these are all. I mean, we're talking. There's no, super right or super wrong answers, but they all kind of coalesce and.
Well,
converge.
there is a certain mystique around this too, that only the priests can go into the Holy of Holies and connect with God. And that makes this even more awesome.
You create a sanctuary. When God says, have them, take them gifts to build me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them. And you create yourself as a sanctuary for God to dwell in. And along those lines, like you say, you also become yourself like a tabernacle for the Torah,
Right.
to contain it within you,
Right. And is that part of Judaism? The body is a temple. Does that resonate, or is that more of a Christian?
Well, they talk about that you have to take care of your body all the time. That your health is very important. You don't sacrifice your health, because like in an emergency, like if it's Shabbat and somebody's sick, you can actually violate Shabbat to save a life. So your body is very important health-wise.
That's true. That's true
Yeah.
because my husband had said that even if it's Yom Kippur, if it's an emergency, he had to go.
Actually, I went into labor during Shabbat. Remember, I was married to an Orthodox Jew, and he did. My husband had never broken Shabbat. He always never would drive or anything, but he drove me to the hospital on Shabbat because it would have been life or death if for some reason the baby cord went around or whatever. I mean, I'd had a healthy delivery, but you don't know that at the time. So
Exactly.
he did take it. But you know what he did do? He drove me to the hospital, but the hospital was several miles from where he lived, and he walked home
Made him
Oh
feel
my
better.
gosh.
because
Wow.
in those days, incidentally, just to show you how old I am, in those days they didn't let the fathers stay.
Oh no, I know that.
Yeah. So when I had my first baby, he just walked home, and believe it or not, it was after Shabbat, way after Shabbat when I had the baby. Oh, actually,
Oh.
no, I'm sorry. I went into labor in the night on Friday night, and I think the hospital did call him or something because he found out that I had the baby, and then somehow or another he must have walked all the way from the house back to the hospital because he was there at some point after the baby was born. I don't remember all this, to be honest. I was having a baby.
You had more important things to think about, right? That's amazing. Wow. That's a great story.
But
though.
in those days, you know how they said push and push it. There was nobody to say. I was just the nurses and me. And I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I was kind of ornery in my first delivery that I knocked a nurse out. They actually chained they tied my hands to the bedpost. I was very unhappy about that, but they were upset that I had knocked somebody out.
I had 2 C-sections. The first one was an emergency, and the doctor offered my husband the opportunity to come into the delivery room, and he said, "No, thank you." He said, "I'm going home. Call me when it's over."
I delivered my kids.
Did you really?
With a doctor. Yeah. He let
Well,
me.
yeah,
He knew it.
most fathers today are much different than because now it's much. They didn't talk about it. I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to be honest with you. I wasn't prepared as much as mothers today are. I'm going to be honest with you. I remember my first child was in the 60s, and it wasn't the same then. I'm telling you, nobody talked about it. The only thing that they talked about was the Laish League for the nursing with your boobs. But other than that, there was nothing else talked about. I mean, there's a lot I had to learn after that first delivery.
I was there for 11 days. You know how boring that was?
Yeah.
Because
They
I
used to
had a
keep you for a
C-section.
week.
They
I
wouldn't
was
let me home.
that was the thing I liked because I got to nurse my baby and relax and everything. Yeah, they used to keep you for a week in the hospital. Can you believe that?
Well,
now you go home the same
C-section.
day.
No, they kept you there, and this is crazy.
I liked it because I was relaxed and had my baby, and I was nursing, so I was very happy.
We had 2 ritual circs in Salem Hospital. I was a disciple of my late grandfather.
Yeah.
They
Well,
had
I lived in Malden, so I was at the Malden Hospital.
everybody came. My mother brought, schnapps and kichel and herring, and they were all in this little room.
Yeah.
That's great. To children, to life. Hallelujah. All right. Who wants to go at number 6? Anybody?
I want to go get schliffen. I'm tired.
All right, Myrna. Go.
You can go.
Okay,
Myrna,
I'll
if you
do
like.
it.
Okay.
He made a cover of pure gold, 2.5 cubits long and 1.5 cubits wide. He made 2 cherubim of gold. He made them of hammered work at the 2 ends of the cover, 1 cherub at one end and the other cherub at the other end. He made the cherubim of one piece with the cover at its 2 ends. The cherubim had their wings spread out above, shielding the cover with their wings. They faced each other. The faces of the cherubim were turned toward the cover. He made the table of acacia wood, 2 cubits long, 1 cubit wide, and 1.5 cubits high. He overlaid it with pure gold and made a gold molding around it. He made a rim of a hand's breadth around it and made a gold molding for its rim round about. He cast 4 gold rings for it and attached the rings to the 4 corners at its 4 legs. The rings were next to the rim as holders for the poles to carry the table. I can visualize that. You know, he made the poles of acacia wood for carrying the table and overlaid them with gold. The utensils that were to be upon the table, its bowls, ladles, jugs, and jars, with which to offer libations, he made of pure gold. He made the lampstand of pure gold. He made the lampstand, its base and its shaft, of hammered work. Its cups, calyxes, and petals were of one piece with it. 6 branches issued from its sides, 3 branches from one side of the lampstand and 3 branches from the other side of the lampstand. There were 3 cups shaped like almond blossoms, each with a calyx and petals on one branch. And there were 3 cups shaped like almond blossoms, each with calyx and petals on the next branch. So for all 6 branches issuing from the lampstand. On the lampstand itself, there were 4 cups shaped like almond blossoms, each with calyx and petals, a calyx of one piece with it under a pair of branches, and a calyx of one piece with it under the second pair of branches, and a calyx of one piece with it under the last pair of branches. So for all 6 branches issuing from it, their calyxes and their stems were of one piece with it, the whole of it a single hammered piece of pure gold. He made its 7 lamps, its tongs, and its fire pans of pure gold. He made it and all its furnishings out of a talent of pure gold. He made the incense altar of acacia wood, a cubit long, and a cubit wide, square, and 2 cubits high. Its horns were of one piece with it. He overlaid it with pure gold, its top, its sides, round about, and its horns. And he made a gold molding for it round about. He made 2 gold rings for it under its molding, on its 2 walls on opposite sides, as holders for the poles with which to carry it. He made the poles of acacia wood and overlaid them with gold. He prepared the sacred anointing oil and the pure aromatic incense expertly blended. He made the altar for burnt offering of acacia wood, 5 cubits long and 5 cubits wide, square and 3 cubits high. He made horns for it on its 4 corners, the horns being of one piece with it, and he overlaid it with copper. He made all the utensils of the altar, the pails, the scrapers, the basins, the flesh hooks, and the fire pans. He made all these utensils of copper. He made for the altar a grating of meshwork in copper, extending below, under its ledge to its middle. He cast 4 rings at the 4 corners of the copper grating as holders for the poles. He made the poles of acacia wood and overlaid them with copper. And he inserted the poles into the rings on the side walls of the altar to carry it by them. He made it hollow of boards. He made the laver of copper and its stand of copper from the mirrors of the women who performed tasks at the entrance of the tent of meeting. He made the enclosure. On the south side, 100 cubits of hangings of fine twisted linen for the enclosure, with their 20 posts and their 20 sockets of copper, the hooks and bands of the posts being silver. On the north side, 100 cubits with their 20 posts and their 20 sockets of copper, the hooks and bands of the posts being silver. On the west side, 50 cubits of hangings with their 10 posts and their 10 sockets, the hooks and bands of the posts being silver.
Do you want to take a break, Myrna?
Take a sip.
Monique, would you like to read? I think you're the only one that hasn't. What's that?
So where are we?
13.
They're wallowing in gold and silver.
13.
And on the front side to the east, 50 cubits. 15 cubits of hangings on the one flank with their 3 posts and their 3 sockets. And 15 cubits of hangings on the other flank on each side of the gate of the enclosure with their 3 posts and 3 sockets. All the hangings around the enclosure were of fine twisted linen. The sockets for the posts were of copper, The hooks and bands of the posts were of silver. The overlay of their tops was of silver. All the posts of the enclosure were banded with silver. The screen of the gate of the enclosure done in embroidery was of blue, purple, and crimson yarns and fine twisted linen. It was 20 cubits long. Its height or width was 5 cubits, like that of the hangings of the enclosure. The posts were 4. Their 4 sockets were of copper, their hooks of silver, and the overlay of their tops were of silver, as were also their bands. All the pegs of the tabernacle and of the enclosure around about were of copper.
Hallelujah. We got through it.
Mazel
We had a
tov.
lot of copper, a lot of silver, a lot of
Oh,
gold.
boy. A lot of crimson. You know that crimson, like purple is a very, very royal color in chakras. I studied chakras,
Nice.
and purple is the highest. So I want you to know that it's a very
It's always been
spiritual
like that,
high.
royal purple.
Royal purple. But I'm talking about even a spiritual setting, it's very high.